Growing up as a young fellow, was being a professional musician all you ever wanted to do?
Well, playing the guitar and playing in a band, playing my own songs was always something I wanted to do. I don't think I really the concept of a professional musician didn't really sink in until much later. But yeah, I was snake bit early on. I really wanted to do it.
In terms of developing your own personal taste in music, how much of that do you attribute to the environment you grew up around there in Louisiana?
Well, a lot because fortunately, because of the culture here, such a strong influence with both the Cajun and the Creole cultures. There was just a lot of music, and I've always heard a lot of music. I was around a lot of music, and to go to New Orleans and hear jazz and the second line and R&B and blues and Cajun and Zydeco and rock and roll and what was on the radio and everything else. So it was a rich environment to draw from.
A lot has been made by many about your unique style of playing, particularly your slide guitar playing. When you were developing your own style, were you intent on reaching a state of uniqueness like that?
I was intent on finding my own voice on the guitar, and the Delta bluesmen were my heroes, and set the standard for me in that they had the full package. They were great instrumentalists in that they would not only support the songs, but literally the lyrics of the songs, and sing and maybe sing a line and then answer on the guitar. So that whole approach, that call and response, was important to me, and I think just having that as a goal. Then along the way, I would evolve and discover new techniques, and I just think that pushed me in the right direction from the very beginning.
Were there any specific slide players that caught your attention when you were developing your style?
Oh yeah, the two things that happened. If I had to you look back and point to two artists that helped set me on my path. It was learning the finger style of Chad Atkins, and then discovering the Delta blues, and in particular the slide, the sound of Robert Johnson just blew me away.
Tell us about playing with the great Clifton Chenier. That must have been a valuable experience for you at that stage, still at a young age as a musician.
Yeah, I mean, it was 1979, and once that happened, I just figured that was the height of my musical career right then and there. He was that important. I would liken it to if I had grown up in Chicago and Muddy Waters had taken me under his wing.
Yeah.
That's how important that was, and I just learned so much from him. I've heard him when I was a kid, a teenager, and then the first time, and in that year, and I'd say year and 4 months or so, I heard Clifton Chenier, Jimi Hendrix, and B.B. King, all in that span of time. So there was some great influences there.
Anything in particular you took from working under Clifton that you use yourself today as a band leader?
Yeah, his sense of rhythm was amazing. Just an incredible rhythm section, and how he would treat a blues tune. He had also his repertoire was just. Every night he would pull out a song we hadn't done on the spot, and he would change the keys to all of the songs every night, except for the Zydeco songs. Like a lot of the blues tunes, they were never in the same key from one night to the next, So it really kept me on my toes. But he liked the sound of the slide, too, and he was a big fan. A lot of people don't know, but he was a big fan of Elmore James. And he liked that sound and having two guitars, one playing rhythm and one playing slide. And that was real... that was a great opportunity for me to learn and to apply what I was learning and directly on the guitar and with the repertoire as well.
Talk about your time also with John Hyatt. How did that association come to be, and do you look back on that now as a major turning point in your career? It certainly opened up a lot of exposure for you.
Absolutely. The gig with John opened up doors that I wouldn't or hadn't had, certainly. And the band that I had is the same bass player I'm working with now, and we went from playing in bars to on the more universal stage for sure. And we traveling all over Europe and UK and Canada and the US and Japan. So that was a big step. The thing too with John was the album Bring the Family had just come out and was a big hit with the critics. So because Nick Lowe and Ry Cooder and Jim Keltner were on that project, and people would come out and they're going. There's just a lot of attention, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're going, well, who in the world is going to be playing in this band to play these songs? And we had the band I had. We'd been together and played together for a long, long time, and we just had this chemistry with John. So it was a big moment in time for me.
You certainly, as you say, had big shoes to fill going into that band. Did you feel?
Yeah, I sure did, didn't I? But the cool thing is, at that stage of the game for me, I'd already so far down that path we spoke of on my own. It really didn't. We just didn't really think about it much. We had a job to do, and because we were having so much fun and we clicked so well. We'd all grown up listening to the same music too. There was a common thread for all of us to draw from, and so it was pretty special.
Has all the years that you had with your experience working as a sideman in other people's bands helped you as a band leader yourself today in terms of?
Oh yeah, I mean, first I always had my own bands from way back, but early on when I started doing session work, I realized that you can always learn something from anybody, and in particular, when I finally got a chance to work with my heroes, I got a chance to get up close and see how they worked, and you learn something, and you take that in. It absolutely helped me. There's a big step from that, just standing in front of your amp as a sideman, for example, a few feet forward to the front and center microphone. But you take all that with you. It's all a part of experience, and that was just nothing really new for me. I've been doing that since I was 13 years old. So.
The session work you've done over the years represents a great cross section of musical styles too. How important has it been for you personally to have that versatility, I guess, as a musician?
Well, it was very important, and even more so, I would say that I like to think of it as more about slide guitar per se, and the potential to be so effective in so many different genres of music. I think that's probably the most important aspect of all that for me, and finding ways to fit in with styles of music maybe you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. A textural thing. I mean, it just lends itself so much to it, and it gets back to what I fell in love with about it in the first place, which was the vocal quality about it. It just really lends itself to a lot of different colors and sounds and textures that fortunately I was able to bring something unique to the table in all of those projects and all those people I worked with.
Now, you've had some major label experience in the past, as well as having gone down the independent path as well. What have been the outstanding pros and cons of either way of doing things?
The best thing about the major label was that at the time it was a beautiful illusion that they had money behind you, and we're on the bus, and we had all my gear. I mean, we all had our gear and so forth. On the other hand, with an independent, it was much more the personal touch and more specific. Fortunately, I have to say, in anything that I've ever done with labels and so forth, I always had the opportunity to do exactly what I wanted to do. I was never forced or coerced in anything I didn't want to do. So I always had that creative thing going all along. I just think now is a really exciting time, I think, for people like myself who've been out there for a while, especially because having gone independent, it's just way better. I mean, with the years of experience we've had, and with my team, with my manager and the booking agency, my band and crew and all, we've just been working on this for a long time, and it's kind of coming of age, if you know what I mean.
You're so highly regarded as a guitar player that I feel sometimes other aspects of your talents are sometimes overlooked, such as your songwriting. Has that been a source of frustration for you at times?
Well, not really, only because I knew that from day one, and it's just something that I got used to, an idea I had to get used to a long time ago too. What I've found, what's a great affirmation is people that's how it starts. They're captured by the guitar thing, but then when they live with the music, then they hear the song, they embrace the soul of the song, is the way I like to put it, and it's a great thing. I can remember the first time walking out on the stage and there was this explosion of applause, and everyone there was there to hear the songs that we were doing at the time. And that was a new experience coming out of knocking on doors for so many years, and a room maybe not full of people who not only was the room not full, but they weren't familiar with anything about you. So that's a great thing, and I find that at given time they get into the songs, and that's what keeps them coming back.
Talking about your songwriting, for you, is there a best time for songwriting? Is it something you can do while you're on the road, or is it something you have to set time aside for?
Well, different aspects of it I do. I'm constantly working on ideas and getting ideas, and that's in airports, that's in hotel rooms, it's in the car, it can be anywhere. But yeah, I do, when I decide, okay, this is it, I really flip a switch somehow that I also think of as inviting the muse in and really focusing on it. That's the good thing, is that's when I really get ahead of steam at writing. The downside is that I get really spacey. Apparently, all of my friends, or anyone close to me, notices the difference. It's like, okay, he's not really here right now, but that's just part of it too for me, and it's still an adventure. I never know. It's always, there's different twists and turns about it that still excite me.
Right.
Still fire me up.
So there's no set procedural method to your songwriting. It can happen anywhere.
Man, I wish there was one. Believe me, I would milk it, but I don't. It's just, it comes from different times, different circumstances, and the music has always just come really, really fast and almost nonstop, to the point that I have to shut it off sometimes. But lyrically, it's a different trip. It takes more time. And I've always wanted to write songs that would stand the test of time. So that was a high mark for me early on to attempt to reach.
I was reading another interview with you recently where you mentioned that, well, you accused yourself basically of taking yourself too seriously at times.
Well, I think in that, in particular, I'm my own worst critic, and I think you know, I probably overdo that, I'm sure, but you can't just think everything you do is great. And I mean, it was wonderful when I was a kid, just the sound of music, period, was so magical, and I miss that there's a naivety, there's a naive aspect of that I miss. But at the same time, if you can hang on to some of that magic night after night, in spite of the ups and downs of the business and all that, that's pretty special too.
Have there been occasions where you've had to take definite steps to keep it all a bit more relaxed and enjoy your music more?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There are times when I've just had to, what I would say, I have a talk with myself, and just say, hey, okay, you know, this is, you know, you got to step outside of the box a while and live in the moment and appreciate it. And I think everybody gets kind of caught up in that sometimes. But I'm pretty good. I'm pretty even keel. I don't think anyone would say I have big mood swings or anything like that. I've worked, you know what, I'll tell you what it is. I've worked with so many people that do have mood swings. that's something else I learned. You learn as much what not to do sometimes is more important as to what you think you ought to be. You know what I mean? You set by example, and I think that's a real important life lesson for anyone in any field and any, you know what I mean? Just in everyday living, you set by example, and I really believe in that.
Now you have a unique network of support called Sonny's Crew. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's quite amazing. And there's a venue in New Orleans. It's called the Rock and Bowl, and believe it or not, it's a bowling alley, and they started booking bands there way back. And it just clicked for us, and we have a strong following that they like to go hear us play there. So there were a group of people from the East Coast in the U.S., and they just came up with this idea to call it, begin a fan club, like a street team, you know what I mean? And they got the notion of calling it Sonny's Crew, as in Krewe, like a Mardi Gras crew, like in New Orleans. And it's just great. I mean, they network with people all over the country here and all over the world, for that matter. And what they do is they show up and they sell the merch. And I mean, that would be a cool enough thing as a traveling musician. But the really amazing thing is that all the proceeds from the T-shirts goes to a fund that I've been involved with for many years, and the Dr. Tommy Como Memorial Fund, which is basically to establish a chair of endowment in traditional music at the university in Lafayette, Louisiana. And they've helped us realize that goal. And they did all that on their own accord. They pay for their own expenses. You know what I mean? They just did it all out of pocket, and it's really cool. I've gotten to know them, and they show up at all different places and gigs we do, and it's been a great help.
It's been a bit of a leaning towards a more bluesy orientated sound in some of your recent work. Have you felt a need to get back to the basics there at times?
Oh, I always do. I always, at one point, I always feel a need to get back to the source, so to speak, and I think that's part of traditional forms, and talking about the culture earlier, and it just sort of my inner compass, and I mean, the blues has always been at the heart of it for me anyway. I mean, you might not think it, but hearing some of the songs, that if you listen close, it's in there, and sometimes it's just more apparent than other times. There was an album, The Road We're On, we did back in 2002, and that was a conscious effort to get back, like the whole project, so to speak, was the goal there, and I got really excited about that, and all these songs just came pouring out. And that's when I know I'm onto the right thing when the music comes. That's my marker. That's what I look for. And as long as that's happening, then I'm happy.
Talk about your recent album, Beyond the Reach, and the numerous guests that you had on that record. How challenging an album was that to put together logistically?
It was, don't get me wrong, it was a lot of work that I expected, but actually the thing I kind of didn't expect is just how smoothly everything went. The thing about doing a guest album, it's something I always wanted to do, but it had been done so much, so much of a cliche. So I had to come up with a different way, a different approach, and that's when I got the idea to write the songs for the guests, and which is a bit of an act of faith, or stupidity. Is a fine line sometimes between ignorance and brilliance, maybe. But the thing that happened is everyone was so enthusiastic about it that was a second layer of inspiration for me, and that's what got me really going on that project, and that took me places with writing that I wouldn't have otherwise. And the interaction, even though we did it from the technological standpoint with in the digital world we live in now, there were still good things about that really worked out.
So I guess you're basically writing songs to order then, to fit the the person that was going to be presenting it. So, do you sometimes need
Right.
to set yourself a challenge like that at times when working on new projects?
Well, I've never done it before, you know, and I would have a song we'd already recorded and go, you know, well, this would be good, Mark, this would be good with Mark Knopfler to play on, or you know, when I have a few guests, but to do it a full blown entire project like that, and to take it on in such a way that was the focus of the writing, I'd never done that before, and that was a new experience for me.
Is there a danger, though, at times when putting together a guest album that the guest can become a distraction, and the album becomes more about the guest than...
Oh, I think so,
Yeah.
and I think that's happened to a lot of people, and that's one of the pitfalls I wanted to avoid. The thing that I had going for me, though, as an edge, was that I was so intimately familiar with each of the guests, their work. I mean, because they were... In the case of Eric Clapton, he was a childhood hero of mine, and others that I've become friends with over the years and worked in one form or another on their projects, and vice versa. So I had that going for me, and I was able. I think that's why what made it a success in the first place was come up with the right songs. Again, if you don't have the songs, I mean, it really doesn't matter how great anybody plays. I mean, that's cool in and of itself, but that's not really the goal. You have to have the songs to make it something really special, and then to be able to put that together in such a way that they were comfortable to fit into their space, so to speak, and then have an interaction and a chemistry in spite of the distance and so forth. I think that was a real challenge, but that's what kind of kept us. It kind of kept us on the right course, you know.
Mm. So are you at a point now where you're already thinking about the next project?
Oh, I'm always doing that. You have to be prepared to hit the ground running, and I'm usually, I would say 2 or 3 projects ahead, at least in some nebulous, gray, foggy kind of, concept. I've been leaning towards an instrumental album for a long time. That seems to be where I'm headed. But don't hold me to it 100%. But that's kind of the way it feels.
No problem. And just before I let you go, Sonny, what's in the immediate future for you? What have you got in the books for the rest of the year?
Well, we're doing a few more shows in the States, and then I'm going back overseas in November. We're going to Minsk, Belarus, and play a festival there. We're going to London, and we have 4 shows in Italy. And then we're going to call it a year, and that's right after at the end of November. That's when I traditionally take the couple of months break from the road. I'll be involved in the studio and writing and so forth, and working on my gear. Never-ending process. The quest for tone. But at least we'll be out of the airports, and I'm looking forward to that and catching up with family and friends here at home.
Fantastic. Sonny, thanks so much for your time. It's been fantastic to catch up with you.
Well, thanks, John. I appreciate it. It was fun, and my best to all down there. We look forward to coming back.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you here again real soon.
Great, man.
Okay.
Well, you take care.
You too. All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.